Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Emma and I help people to heal from chronic dizziness such as PPPD. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos that can help you to heal from dizziness. And if you like the video, please like it because it will help it to reach more people. So in this video today, I want to talk about regressions or setbacks, which is essentially the same thing. And I wanted to do this video because it's a question that comes up an awful lot of the time. Pretty much everybody experiences a regression or a setback at some point. But I think that people tend to panic or they worry that they've done something wrong or that they feel like they're back to square one. So I want to explain first of all what a regression actually is, and then I'm going to give you guys some reasons why you may be in a regression, and then what you can actually do to take some steps to help with the regression until you're back out the other side of it. So what is a regression then? So a regression is a temporary increase in dizziness symptoms. It could also be an increase in emotions like anxiety, fear, worry. You could feel like basically your nervous system has just been turned up a notch, that you feel like all of a sudden, out of the blue, you're on high alert and your dizziness is through the roof. So first of all, as I said, I want you to know that regressions are perfectly normal. And I wish everybody knew that. I wish I knew that back when I was having regressions, because I thought that I did something wrong and that wasn't always the case. So regressions are normal. Healing is not a linear process. When you're recovering from chronic dizziness, your symptoms are going to be very much up and down a lot of the time, especially at the beginning of your journey. So please try not to panic and trust the process, that a regression or a setback is temporary and you'll move back to feeling better in no time. So let's talk about some of the reasons then why you might be experiencing a regression. And the first one is that maybe you're doing a lot of the right things, but maybe you're just doing too much of it. And when you're doing too much of something, what you're actually doing by accident is placing unnecessary attention and focus on it. So maybe you are becoming a bit more hyper-focused or aware of your symptoms. Maybe you're accidentally checking to see if your symptoms are becoming lower, but actually that process of checking is causing those symptoms to increase because you're noticing them more. So I would encourage you to stick with what you're doing, but don't do too much of it. You don't need a long list of to-do things that you do every day. So pick or choose one or two different things, set aside 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes each day to practice, and then try to forget about it. Just try to go and live your life as normal as best you can without checking to see if symptoms are still there. And like I said, if you're doing too much, you could accidentally be placing too much focus and attention on that. Another reason is that maybe, again, you're doing a lot of the right things, but because maybe your nervous system, you've been holding on to a lot of this emotional stuff for a really long time, that you've had a really tight lid on your symptoms. And maybe now that you're starting to feel safe enough to allow some of this emotional stuff to kind of simmer and bubble to the surface. So it could actually be a good thing. It could be that your nervous system is just letting you see that next layer that needs to be healed. So regressions aren't always bad, but how you respond to this is what makes the difference. So maybe you could just respond by saying, "Thank you, nervous system, for showing me the next layer that I need to heal. I'm going to respond to you with self-compassion and self-kindness, and we're going to move through this together." So another reason why you could be experiencing a regression is maybe there's an upcoming event or something that's going on in the near future that you're really anxious or worried about. Maybe it's a medical procedure that you're really worried about because you've had previous bad experiences, or maybe you need to travel and you're a really anxious traveler, but it's something that you can't really get out of, or maybe it's something you want to do but you just don't know how to handle it when you're in that situation. So this is really common if there's something that's coming up in several weeks or maybe even a couple of months' time, that you feel like there's this building level of anxiety inside of you. So just get curious and see if there is anything that's coming up in the next couple of weeks or months that you are really worried about, as that could be a reason for your regression. So another reason could be that if you're a female and you're still having periods, then the luteal phase of your cycle, so that's the second half of your cycle, cycle, you do actually experience lower levels of heart rate variability, and that means that your body becomes more susceptible to stress. So there are hormonal changes that are happening around that time that stop us from feeling our best version of ourselves. So women particularly do have these fluctuations throughout the cycle, and it does tend to be that stress levels, we're more susceptible to it in the luteal phase. Another reason could be that maybe life has just got a bit more stressful for you and your nervous system is struggling to handle that. So maybe there's extra work pressures, maybe there's some relationship stuff going on, that's just adding to the stress. And these sorts of things can build up over time, and they have a knock-on effect to other areas of our life. So maybe that's resulting in you not being able to sleep as well as you normally would, or that you're not finding the time to exercise and move your body, or you're just forgetting to eat properly or to get enough water. And all of these things, like a lack of dehydration and not getting proper nutrition, can all contribute to you just not feeling your best self. And then you can get more stressed as a result of that. If there's already an increased level of stress, you're not going to be coping with it as well as somebody that was otherwise looking after themselves. So that again could be another reason why you're experiencing a temporary increase in your symptoms, which is why stress management techniques are so important. So another reason then could be that maybe you're being triggered by something that is unconscious, below your conscious awareness. Now, this could be more likely if you're somebody that has a longer term history of trauma, or you've been through some pretty emotionally heavy stuff that you would say has not been fully resolved. So you may not be aware that there are triggers in your environment or in your life, and it could be that you are being triggered by something that you're not quite aware of, that is reminding you of something that happened in the past. So just get curious with that. Are there any changes that's happened? Are there new people that have come into your life that remind you of past experiences, for example? And just see if you can understand possibly if you're being triggered by something that you weren't otherwise aware of, because that can definitely lead to a temporary increase in your symptoms. So are there conflicts, conversations that you're avoiding? Are there maybe boundaries that you need to set with people, things that you've just been putting off because you don't want to put yourself in a situation that makes you feel uncomfortable? But I can tell you that by setting healthy boundaries with people, by saying how you truly feel and advocating for yourself, is so healthy for your nervous system and is so healthy for your mental health as well. Finally then, maybe you've been feeling really well for quite a long time and you're somebody that maybe previously had a chronically dysregulated nervous system. So by that, I mean you were spending a lot of time in the fight-flight response. So there was a lot of activation from within your nervous system, and you were stressed and hypervigilant, and your nervous system became attuned to spend more time in that state than it did in rest and digest. And maybe you've been doing a lot of work to help your body to feel safe, and that's been working for a really, really long time. But what we have to remember is that our bodies still do remember what we've been through, and maybe sometimes safety can actually be a bit unfamiliar for our system. So it's almost like you've been feeling well, you've been feeling safe for quite a long time. Your nervous system suddenly says, we're not used to this. This is unfamiliar. Surely something bad is going to happen soon. And then it turns the dial up on your symptoms. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with the fact that this happened. It's just a protective part of us that's popping up just to actually check that we are safe. So again, how you respond to this will actually rewire your nervous system in terms of how much it can find and seek safety moving forwards. So what your nervous system is really looking for in that moment is reassurance. So we don't want to be meeting it with anger or frustration or, why is this happening again? Why me? Why do I feel like I'm back to square one? That's really not the case. It could just be that you've been feeling safe for a while and all of a sudden that feels a little bit unfamiliar and that feels a little bit unsafe. So a regression, ultimately, to summarize all of that, is your body letting you know that it's not really feeling safe. So it is seeking reassurance and safety from you. So part of what we do could just be actually reminding ourselves that we are safe and that regressions are temporary, and we don't need to catastrophize the situation or make it something bigger than what it actually is. And just by doing that, just by recognizing that in that moment, you can say, I notice I'm in a bit of a regression, I'm experiencing some higher symptoms, but I trust my body and I know that this is going to pass. Sometimes that can be enough in itself just to turn the volume down on symptoms and to say, okay, maybe our body can actually start to feel safe. Our nervous system's starting to get that message that there's nothing scary going on here. So symptom spikes can really be seen as opportunities for you to respond differently. And that's the crucial piece of information here. You have so much opportunity to rewire your brain during a regression. And that's a really good way of looking at it. So instead of saying, why do I feel this bad? Instead, you could just say, wow, this is really an opportunity for me to lean into this, to rewire my brain and my nervous system, to bring some safety on board so that these regressions start to become less frequent and less intense as time goes on. So how the best way to respond during a regression, I would say sort of depends on the reason for the regression in the first place. So get a bit curious with some of my suggestions and make your best guess as to why you feel like you have the regression. Then I would encourage you to kind of consider this next list of information that I'm going to give you so that you know the best way to handle this particular regression that you're going through at the moment. So if you feel like maybe you've been doing too much, then obviously that could be a real clear indication for you to slow down and just rein things in a little bit. It doesn't mean that the more you do for your healing, the quicker you're going to get better. And I'm sorry to tell you that. And I know if it was an effort thing, almost all of us would have recovered really quickly because I know how much you guys want to get better. But sometimes less is more. And if you are doing too much that's causing you to over-focus on your symptoms, I would encourage you just to rein things in a bit, just have a quieter few days, maybe even a couple of weeks, turn your attention to something enjoyable instead, something that's not related to dizziness at all. So have a think about what brings you joy, what brings you a sense of purpose, what feels manageable for you to do at the moment, and then do that and see if that is enough of a healthy distraction to take you away from your symptoms. If you've got a lot of stress going on in your life at the moment, then I would encourage you to just take a break, have a few early nights, up your hydration, go for a gentle walk instead of doing a high intensity workout at the gym. Listen to your body. Your body is giving you cues about what it needs all of the time. It's just that most of us choose not to listen because we are so stuck up in our head about what we need to do, what we feel we should be doing, what we feel we must be doing, that we actually ignore a lot of our interoceptive signals that we get from the body, and that is our body letting us know what we actually need. So tune into that and respond to what you need. You can also remind yourself that this is temporary, this will pass. Regressions are normal, they happen to pretty much everybody, and you're going to be back to feeling more like yourself really soon. I would also advise that you bring in more safety. So we already know that predominantly the reason why you're going to be experiencing a regression is that your body is letting you know that it doesn't quite feel safe or that there's a perceived increase in danger. So how can you bring some more safety? So I would ask you to experiment and get curious with what are your favorite tools that you use to regulate your nervous system and to calm yourself down. And obviously that's going to be different for everybody. We all have our own individual and unique nervous system, but what works best for you? If it's meditation, do some more meditation. If it's deep breathing, do some more deep breathing. Really tune into what works for you and offer your system some more safety during this time, some more parasympathetic rest, digest, restore, being able to access that pocket of safety from within our nervous systems. That's really what it's calling for during this time. So have a think about what you can do to actually achieve that. And if you do feel like maybe that there's somebody or something that's triggering you, that's causing a bit of extra, emotional distress, I do encourage you to have the difficult conversation. Really be honest with people about how you feel. Set boundaries if that's what you need to do, because doing that actually helps you to feel safe. And you need to make yourself a priority for your healing. So the good news that I can tell you about regressions is that they do decrease in frequency, intensity, and duration as time goes on. So if you're committed to your healing journey, you're doing all of the right things, you trust your body, you really want this for yourself, I can promise you that your regressions will eventually fade away until you don't experience them anymore. That was exactly what happened to me, and it's what I've seen happen to so many other people as well, that the regressions for me at the very beginning of my healing, they would last weeks and weeks and weeks, and I felt like it was a never-ending cycle. It would be one small trigger that would just set off my symptoms for a really long time. And I promise you that as time went on, that got so much easier, and then maybe a regression or a symptom spike would last just a few days, and then eventually they would decrease altogether. So I promise you, please just try to stick with what you're doing. If you know you're doing all of the right things, it does get easier as time goes on. It really is about how you're responding to the regression, and in terms of how that will shape your future experiences. And there is so much opportunity during regressions for us to rewire our brains to actually say symptom spikes are not dangerous, and that we can actually access safety while we're in them. And that is how you rewire your brain, so that we can help to understand that all physical sensations, emotions, thoughts, they're all safe. And that is really what it comes back to, is safety. So please do remember that. Next time you're in a regression, you can reassure yourself that it's temporary, it will pass, and that you have tools and things that you can do to help yourself through these difficult times. So I hope that was helpful, guys. If you have any comments, as always, please leave them in the box below, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.